Next up is the session Beyond the Resume, what managers really look for when it comes to promotion.
Hello, and welcome everybody to Beyond the Resume, what managers are really looking for. Now, I want a quick raise of hands here. How many people here are thinking about a new role, looking for a new role, or looking for a promotion? Amazing, that's a good number of people. Well, guess what? You're at the best talk in the house for this. So what we've got here is three amazing women here to talk to us about all of their skills and talents and information around how to basically get your next promotion, how to get the next role in the next company, and how to basically excel within your career. But I'd love for them to tell you about them and what they do. So Rumbi, I'm gonna start with you on this one. And I just basically want you to introduce yourself. So if you can tell us your name, your story so far, and then also maybe one lesser known fact about your career so far.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is this too loud?
You're
Perfect. Okay, perfect. My name is Rumbi Mitsambiwa. I'm a customer post-sales leader. I've been working with tech companies to help them, scale the impact in EMEA, North America, and Africa. However, I always say that my job is one thing. I'm also a mentor with the Black Economics Network, UK, and I also sit on the advisory board for Dire Ventures East Africa. But my journey into tech really starts with the fact that I always said yes to random opportunities. And one of those random opportunities was that my goal was really to work in the intersect of reducing inequality. And that resulted in learning more, I guess, on the power of technology to support that goal of reducing inequality. So one lesser known fact about me is the fact that my goal was actually to work in international NGOs in the charity sector. But that passion of trying to figure out inequality and smarter, efficient ways to do things resulted in me being in the tech industry. And it's been a pivot, quest, and it continuously still is a pivot and a quest journey. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Patricia Williams, and I work at Just Eat as a lead business analyst. I have worked in tech for almost 30 years, so I started in 1997 as an Oracle developer. I used to write SQL, PSQL, Unix, Oracle Forms, and for the last 20 years I've been a business analyst. Whilst I like business analysts, I like to solve problems, I like to be that meet between the sandwich of the business and tech. I'm fortunate enough to lead BA teams, so right now at Just Eat I have a team of 8, and I'm really, really passionate about getting my team to drive their career bus. I'm all about them being a little bit uncomfortable so they continue to grow, and I'm all about me just getting them out of their way. And a lesser known fact about me, I haven't got a tech one, but I love boxing, and I've done 2 white-collar fights, so that's also a known fact.
Impressive. Hi everyone, I'm Nicole Nelson. I'm a leadership consultant. I've also worked in product management for about 6 years now. I've worked in fintech, consulting, and now the culture sector. I've also been the chair of trustees for an amazing charity in Southeast London for 2 years as well. A lesson known fact about me is similar to Rumbi actually. I had zero intention of getting into tech. I did my master's in chemistry, and my plan was to work in the circular economy, developing products like biodegradable inks and sustainable packaging, so somehow ended up here.
Amazing, thank you to all three of you. And finally, I'm Catherine, and I'm the head of community events at Colour in Tech, and I'll be your host and moderator for this session. Now, let's get straight into it. So when we were talking about, resumes and excelling within your career, the conversation of recruitment obviously came up. And Patricia, I want to start with you on this question because I know you've been in the hiring mindset recently, in the recruitment and the interview mindset. And I think it would be great if you could share a story with us, maybe about a time where a candidate or a team member in particular impressed you by sharing a quality or a skill that was beyond what you were expecting within the interview.
Interesting. So recently I have recruited two junior BAs into my team, and they were internal hires. They'd come from different parts of the business, and I was quite intentional about making sure that I get someone that has got great soft skills, because when it comes to business analysis, I can teach you how to write requirements and user stories and stuff. So I interviewed two people, but there was only one role at the time. So the person that did the best interview that got the role, but the other person wasn't a great interview, but he impressed me so much. His potential, and I just knew that he was just like a diamond in the rough, you know, and I just knew that for him, if I got him into my team, I could transform him into a wonderful business analyst. You know, good business knowledge, he knows the business really well. So for me, even though that he didn't do well, he attempted to answer all the questions, but yeah, he just shone through. His potential shone through. So for me, it's not just about who does the best, it's also what they show. And that young person's actually here today on the Just Eat booth. I won't name them because I don't want to embarrass them, but they're here.
That's amazing to hear, and it's great that you saw that potential. I'd like to dig in a little further into that. With that potential, was there any specific skills or interpersonal skills, anything that they showed that made them shine so much?
It was the interpersonal skills, and all the examples he gave, he really showed to me that he was a completer finisher. So he showed that he would all go back to his team manager to make sure he was doing the right thing, and he just owned those problems right from the start, right through to the end. And you know, I'm not always a completer finisher. There's loads of things in my house that I started but not finished. But with this young person, he just showed that he was, and because of that, I created another role so he could come and join my team.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. So being a completer, by the sounds of it, is a great way to get noticed. Now, both Rumbi and Nicole, we chatted about this before in terms of like your own career steps, and you've been both in situations on the other side of what Patricia has been saying with this story. And so Rumbi, I'd like to kind of come to you for this one and kind of hear your experience of being on that other side of the story. Like, how did that feel? And can you tell us a bit more about the importance of being highlighted and kind of being recognized for the skills you have for another role potentially within the organization?
Yes, definitely. I think one of all my breakthrough career moments have always been situations where I, personally, on paper, I'm not qualified. But what really makes the difference is I am very particular about sharing how I do things. And what it has taught me, especially with hiring managers, is that they really appreciate people that are adaptable, people that know how to work collaboratively with people, and people that are not afraid to make mistakes. Because in a fast-changing world and an ever-evolving environment with businesses and all of these things, one thing all hiring managers are looking for are builders and people that know how to pivot quick. And I've always highlighted that. And to share it, just a recent story, as mentioned before, I'm currently working for OpenText as a customer relationship manager within their cybersecurity. But prior, I actually applied for OpenText for something totally different. And they thought I wasn't a great fit for it. But because I was able to articulate this mindset, another opportunity came up where actually the business had not yet started hiring for that. And you know, when I look at the makeshift of the team now, 80% of it came through from either internal shifts or internal referrals from their networks. I was the only one that genuinely applied, but the thing I applied for, I didn't get. And it really reminded me that mindset is important because the jobs are no longer really advertised, they're hidden. And to get those jobs, a lot of times, it's just showing your mindset because the opportunities are there, maybe not advertised yet, and that's just a story from my experience.
Thank you so much for sharing. There's a word I want to pick up on in what you said, which was adaptable, right, and having an adaptability mindset. And I wondered if you could maybe give us an example of how you could demonstrate that within an interview of having that mindset.
So I think the greatest way to demonstrate being adaptable is showing that you take initiatives when problems arise, and you're okay with operating from the unknown. So for example, if someone says, how did you overcome, I don't know, just say a bad example. Don't just say, I did X. Just say, I overcome this by firstly understanding what the impact of this work is going to be on X. And through that, I was able to come up with a new strategy that did this, and I worked with XYZ in order to deliver this. So it's really about showing that you're adaptable and quick on your feet, but it's, again, about framing. And speaking about framing, there's a lot of ways to frame. Google has the XYZ frame, there's a lot of things, but it's really just framing your words. Yeah.
Amazing. I love that. Thank you so much. Now, one of the things that comes up with both of your answers there is the importance of first impressions and how that can really affect the interview, whether it's, you know, getting that role or making sure you're showing the right mindset that's going to help you get the next role. So, Nicole, I'd like to come to you with this next question, as you're somebody who coaches a lot of people with your leadership, coaching, to support them into their next roles and into growth. So I would love for you to share with us, like, what do you believe is a non-negotiable quality that a candidate should show in an interview to show that they are the right fit for the role?
I think Rumbi touched on a really good point there. When you're in interview scenarios, it's likely that you're going to come across a question that you hadn't thought of before. And I think a non-negotiable I always talk to my clients about is, before you go into the interview, make sure that you're able to really just inspire confidence through a really calm demeanor and just maintain composure and just demonstrating that you're able to think really clearly and communicate clearly under pressure. In normal scenarios in the workplace, day-to-day roles, particularly in leadership, you're not always going to have a super detailed brief. So leaders look for people who are going to be able to pause, diagnose the situation, and then offer a logical next step without actually giving off the impression or pretending that you've got perfect certainty. So I think practically this looks like really taking a couple of seconds before you respond and articulating your thought process. So as Rumbi was saying, so, you know, weighing up your potential approaches, you can actually talk through and say, you know, I could do A, B, or C, but given X, I'm going to actually prioritize B because of this or this reason. And I think having that real moral clarity and being honest about the questions that you have, being honest about what you don't yet know, but then actually articulating how you'd go about finding those answers really demonstrates those leadership qualities that are about sincerity and integrity and, yeah, not pretending that you have it all together and just kind of blagging your way through. So again, it's just really that calm, structured honesty.
Almost like a calm confidence by the sounds of it.
Exactly.
Amazing, thank you for that. And Patricia, I'd actually like to come to also for you for this one, with this idea of honesty and calm confidence. Again, from being on the recruiter side of things, like, how does that come across to you, and how does that position the individual from the interview in your eyes?
I think the first thing, be honest about your CV. I have interviewed people that I've never met their CV, and I, you know, before I interview somebody, I will take the time to read the CV. CVs are interesting. And if I see something on there I've never come across before, because I said I've been in tech a long time, I haven't studied tech for a long time, so there might be new techniques, you know, and like, it's interesting. And if you don't know your CV, that kind of points that maybe that you're a little bit dishonest. I know for me personally, I wouldn't put my coding background on my CV, so I haven't done it in over 20 years. And also, very much what both my colleagues said, it's about being honest, and it's not about always being correct. I love people that I can see actually, but don't know, but they're having a really good stab at trying to work out the answer, and that to me shows that you're a smart cookie, and I can actually, I can actually see you in my team. So I think just honest, and even if you're a little bit flustered, again, that's fine. No, the tech world now, most interviews are virtual. I've had people, can't log on, or calls drop in the middle, and that, again, that is fine. That is really, really fine. I'm not judging you in your ability to use whatever technology for the interview, but yeah, communicate, be honest, but yeah, know your CV.
Knowing your CV, that's a very cool thing to take away from this. And I think with honesty then comes to the next point of self-advocacy that comes, which is really important during the interview stage. And again, I'm going to ask people in the audience for a raise of hands here. In terms of self-advocacy, how many people feel they can confidently advocate for themselves in an interview or promotion conversation? Okay, that's not as high as we'd like. We'd love that to be a little bit higher. So we're going to move on to this as a topic. So Rumbi, I'm gonna come to you for this one, because we've spoken about self-advocacy quite a lot. And I'd love for you to share with us if you could give a piece of advice for how to effectively advocate for yourself and for your needs in a way that feels almost authentic and confident rather than boastful or demanding.
Yeah, so I think I'll just be a bit vulnerable. I'm a person that doesn't like to put attention on myself. Even something like this is scary for me. And it's okay. But one thing I've learned is self-efficacy is kind of key in your growth. And I'm, as someone that also still believes like, oh, my work should speak for itself. Unfortunately, leaders are busy. Sometimes they're not able to see the impact that you're doing and etc. So you might feel like you're being overlooked, but you're actually not being overlooked. They just haven't noticed because they're busy. The board is stressing them out. Do you know? So my way to navigate something like this, I had to change my mindset. I started saying, no, it's not about bragging per se. It's just basically kind of showing the truth, but with receipts. And to help me with that, I started out with, and I do it every Friday, I still do this. I've got something what I call the brag folder. This is where I literally spend some time, sometimes it's 20 minutes, sometimes it's 3 hours, where I actually just think to myself, what did I do well? What did I learn this week? What are areas I could do things better? Oh, where else has people bragged about me and things like that? I screenshot all of that stuff, put it into a document. But the key thing is, what it helps is when you go into conversations about your growth, you have evidence right there, and it's still, because when you do performance reviews 3 months later, you would have forgotten some of the impact you've done. So it gives you that opportunity to reflect and document it and actually present your impact of your work. But what's also important, it's not just capturing the bragging, the good things. The areas that you notice you didn't do well, figure out a strategy as well over the next week to improve in that area, so that also when you go into those growth conversations, as Patricia said, it's not always about getting it right. It's just the people that get promoted sometimes, it's not that you did it right. It's the fact that, I made a mistake, but I'm trying to figure out how to build this skill. Because at the end of the day, people managers want to just build potential. That's what makes them excited. So if you're able to show that, that's key.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. And I love the brag folder. I love it. How many people have a brag folder or a wins tracker? How many of you are going to start one after this? There we go. Amazing to see. Now, there was a point that you made in terms of leaders not having the most amount of time, so they might not always see that what you're doing, and hence why it's important to have your brags folder. How do you basically communicate all of that information, or how much of that information do you communicate to your manager when you're having those conversations? If you could give us some guidance.
Yeah, so it really depends, right? Typically, good management, you probably have your one-to-one weekly check-in, and that's what I'll do. Typically, you start with the first 5 minutes and be like, hey, I just want to give you a rundown of how my week went. This is what happened, this is what I learned, this is where I made mistakes, this is what I'm planning to do to figure it out. That 5 minutes alone, it actually signals to your manager that, oh, they really, and the manager as well, as said, they are people leaders. So they can also spot the gaps that they can actually efficiently support you in your growth. So don't be shy, like one-on-one, I always say one-on-ones, even as a people manager, one-on-one is your time, okay? It's not your manager's time, it's your time to get the manager to do the management job. So come in there owning that time, and own the narrative of that one-to-one. And trust me, good managers will use that information to support you in your growth.
Almost managing up in some sense. Yeah. Amazing. So there is another side of this. Obviously, hopefully this all goes well and you will get promotions from this. But sometimes you can advocate for yourself and it doesn't really go the way you want it to, right? And Nicole, I want to come to you for this one again, from your coaching mindset and supporting people that maybe do that self-advocacy and maybe get disheartened when the results aren't what they expected them to be. And I think, what advice do you have for kind of overcoming that feeling of almost fatigue in that situation to be able to continue to advocate for yourself in these situations?
Yeah, I would always say that I think what makes self-advocacy so exhausting is having to just constantly try and prove your worth and your value and just validate your existence in systems and environments where they don't always recognize it. So I think the advice I would give to my clients around limiting the emotional labor that comes to self-advocacy is to really just reframe it. So Rumbi touched on some great points there. I think firstly, self-advocacy isn't a solo performance, so make sure that you have a team around you. I think there's a lot of strength that can come from having solidarity and having someone to share the load with. So sponsorship is something that I would definitely recommend looking into, finding someone in your workplace who can speak for you in the rooms that you're not in, but also just be someone that you can kind of share the load with and vent to and that sort of thing. I think, again, what can be really exhausting is having to constantly retell the story again and again. So setting up a regular cadence, however that looks like for you, where you're actually communicating updates and checking in on your goals with your manager or your mentor can help, again, reduce that emotional labor. Another thing around self-advocacy is just reframing what it's about. So again, it's not about boasting. There's a real element of justice when it comes to self-advocacy, and I think remembering that you're not looking for handouts or favors, you're actually just looking for recognition for the work that you've done, for your contribution. I think that can really help things too. I think those are probably the main things I would say. Just remember your inherent worth and your value, and that as much as you might be made to feel that you have to constantly prove who you are and what you're about, focus on the long-term vision, focus on what you're about, where you're trying to get to, and it's a day-to-day slog advocating for yourself, but keeping your mind set on where you're trying to get to and remembering that you showing up for yourself is the most important thing that you can do. Don't get burnt out by it. So I would say that there's real wisdom in strategic persistence. So pick your battles, know which ones are going to work for you and which ones are just going to drain you.
Thank you for that, Nicole. There's something I want to pick up as well on that in terms of sharing the load, which I really like the term of, and almost being a sponsor and advocating for other people. So how can people do that? What's your advice in terms of like being there for other colleagues and being a sponsor and being an advocate for them? Because when you help other people around you, it comes back your way positively. Normally, it does. So how can we do that?
It absolutely does come back in a positive way, but I think be mindful that it can come back in a negative way potentially as well. So I think a key attribute of a good sponsor is someone who's quite fearless and just, when you're at that point where you kind of get a bit riled up and you've got that sense of justice that stirs up in you and you get kind of angry and you're like, this isn't right. So I think having that real sense of justice and having that boldness to be courageous and speak up when it'll be easier for you to not speak up. And they're just remembering that, you were at one point you weren't in the position that you are in now. So you speaking up could be the one thing that completely, boosts someone's career and takes them in a different direction. So you could really end up playing a really valuable role in someone's career. Think of it in a bit of a selfless way that, something, it might come back to bite you, potentially in some ways, but you're doing something that is going to be incredibly valuable to the person that you're rooting for. So just speak up, be bold, and just get ready to kind of fight some battles for the people around you.
I love that. Now, I want to move on to talk specifically about promotion, because hopefully some people in the audience are thinking about that and their next steps. And Patricia, I'm going to come to you on this one. I suppose, what are the key qualities that you're looking within your team and within your team members that kind of demonstrate that they may be ready for the next sign of team promotion, leadership, maybe a management role, especially if they've not been in one before? What are those key qualities that you're looking for that signifies that they might be ready for that?
For me, the first thing I want to say that hard work is not enough. If you're putting your head down and just working hard and no one doesn't see it, that's not going to help you get on your career. If hard work was enough, then, most women that juggle work, that, we would be, we'd be millionaires and promoted in every sphere. So it's how are you managing your impact and your reach? Because a lot of time when it comes to promotions, well, I have to go and convince my manager that this person is ready for promotion. And I want it to be really easy and for him to say, actually, yeah, I noticed that thing, I noticed that thing. So how you manage your impact and your reach. And it goes back to what both of these young ladies were saying about how you're advocating for yourself. You have to beat your drum. You have to beat your drum. So if you've done something, talk about it. Most organisations have intranet pages. They have ways of you sharing your wins. So share your wins. And absolutely, and for me, I'm not going to force anyone to promote. You have to drive your career bus. Have those conversations with me. You know, I always set time aside for my direct reports to have those career development conversations. If you've got a PDP, good. If you ain't got one, that's also good. If you want to talk about your cat for that half an hour a month, that's also good. But I am not driving that bus, you know. I am more than happy to brainstorm things with you, give you ideas and all that kind of stuff. And I will be your biggest cheerleader. But you have to be leading that conversation. Absolutely. It's in your ball. It's in your court, sorry.
Absolutely, and I love your words of the career bus. You've got to drive it, you've got to have the destination, you've got to have the route at least somewhat mapped out. And then it makes it easier for managers such as yourself to say, okay, let's make it work.
Exactly. I mean, I will get on and off your career bus and I might say, actually, maybe you need to go in this direction for a little while, but you have to drive it. So if your manager is not putting career development sessions in, you put the career development sessions in. You come with your PDP, you have your goals, you have your objectives, and you say to your manager, okay, you know, you talked about managing my reach and my impact. What are the stakeholders that I maybe not directly work with? Who else do I need to be managing? Because, again, if I put someone up for promotion, I have to produce a business case. It goes to my manager. He has to know totally what that person's been doing, not just from me, but from other people as well. So, you know, who has access to my manager? You know, who's in that room. So you have to really be strategic about managing your impact and your reach. Hard work is not enough.
Love that. And Remy, I'm going to come to you on this one because when we had our conversation before, you were very strong in terms of like meeting your KPIs is not enough, which is kind of what Patricia is saying. And so I'd love to get a bit of an insight, especially with your own career journey where you've maybe gone a bit beyond your KPIs, gone beyond what was expected to be able to get that next step up.
Yeah, thanks. So one thing I know, leadership shows up before being told, right? Before someone giving you opportunities and etc. to do things. And when I think about my career, before I became a people leader, and I think it's a bit of a firstborn syndrome situation as well, I've always found that when there were interns or junior PMs, I really just wanted to help them out. You know, developing their career informally as well. It wasn't like somebody told me to do it. It just became, the result was people just started developing, and my manager at the time saw the potential in me to become a people leader. So as Patricia was saying, make it easier for your manager to see your potential, and it starts with you, right? And it also speaks into, when I think about leadership, I think about you know, in the corporate place, the business case. A lot of times we major on the minors rather than majoring on the major things. You know, I'm always quite surprised at how many people don't actually listen to, you know, these big FY financial year goals, what the strategic vision from the up down, you know, that's going on, and understanding how that relates to your job and your situation. And I'm one of those people that I'm not lazy. I'm not saying I'm lazy, but I'm definitely someone that likes a very soft life. So I do not like stress. So when I find situations where there's just too much admin, there's too much redundant stuff that's just going on, that doesn't actually impact the big goals that my manager's trying to, you know, reach. I'd rather spend a day, weeks, months to solve that problem. But the key is not solving that problem for myself. As I said, I'm just a person that likes to help people. So I'll share that on to the team, roll it out, come up with the templates and all of that. So in talking about, like, you know, the qualities that leaders invest in, I would say my own little frustrations, my little quirks, made it easier for managers to invest in my potential. And that unlocked a journey that I didn't know I was capable of, but I find true joy into it. So it's really not just meeting your KPIs. It's really going above and beyond. And it has to be a fuel. It's an internal thing, and use that to your advantage.
Thank you so much for that. And I've just had the warning that we need to be wrapping this up, unfortunately. But we've had lots of great information that has been shared here, and lots of great tips. Hopefully people agree. Okay, lots of nodding. That's good. So before we go away, because there's lots of information that you're going to take away from today, so I want you, each of you, in one line, because I will get kicked off, in one line, share what's one actionable thing that people in this audience can do tomorrow morning that will help them influence or get seen more by leaders ready for promotions or for their next role. I'm going to start with you, Nicole, and come down the road.
Okay. Find a problem in your workplace that is uniquely frustrating to you. Ideally something that others have noticed but haven't prioritized. Think of a plan, bring it up in your next team meeting or your one-to-one, propose a solution, and demonstrate that you've got a new perspective, that you take initiative, and that you've got the grit to follow through, and set a plan to resolve it in some small way within the next 2 weeks.
I think for me, what I would say is, apart from driving your career bus, you have to manage your impact on your reach. So look at your sphere of influence. Look at who are your manager's peers, and then your manager's peers, and make sure that they know that you're doing fantastic stuff.
And I guess for me, I'll keep it simple. You can literally do it now. Create your brag value folder. Start documenting areas to grow, your impact, and etc. And it will all tie into all the final pieces we've said.
Can we give a round of applause for our panel? Amazing. Thank you so much for coming to listen to our talk. You can connect with all of us on LinkedIn and make sure to rate our session as well using the QR code. If you've been to BTF or Colour in Tech stuff before, you know we love the feedback. So make sure to fill it out and let us know how we did. And feel free to chat with us afterwards as well. But in the meantime, have a fabulous BTF, everyone, and hopefully see you at the after party. See you later, everyone.